Hey, what's up everybody? It's Batjac J.W. and oh, I know what you're thinking. Am I seeing 129 or a whole table full of 29s? That's right. Do you feel lucky? Well, I think in this video we definitely do. We have a table full of Model 29s. What does that mean to most of us? And we're talking about the Smith & Wesson. The alarm is going off. So it's time for 29. We're talking about the Smith & Wesson Model 29, and it is so synonymous with who? The old Dirty Harry movies. Dirty Harry, Magnum Force, The Enforcer, Sudden Impact, The Deadpool. The romance with me and it is, yes, the old cliche, because Clint Eastwood showed up with it in Dirty Harry. Thank you, John Milius, for writing that in. Yes, of course, the time frame and everything is long before my time, but I always enjoyed listening to the fellers that were there and remember that time when that movie came out and how difficult it was to even get your hands on one of these things. Hearing stories from the old folks in the gun shops. Actually, there's a gun shop right down the road here called Frontier Arms. Great guy, love it, and he was just telling me the story of in the 70s and how there was like a year waiting list to get your hands on a Model 29. So anyway, there is only one Dirty Harry gun, and that is the Model 29 6.5-inch barrel, alright, 44 Magnum. Good old Elmer Keith and its story and how it began around 1955 and all that. Elmer Keith coming around and cranking up loads in the 44 Special and blowing up a few guns, I believe. And so getting together with Remington and all that, and then out comes the 44 Magnum. Of course, they lengthened the cartridge from the 44 Special. That's because they didn't want somebody to put one of those Magnums in their old 44 Special and kaboom! Speed loaders, shoulder holsters, and the Model 29. I tell you, one of my favorite movies with Dirty Harry, out of the 5, my favorite one, can you guess it? Now, those of you that have been around this channel long enough probably know and have seen some of the videos. There's quite a catalog of videos on my channel relating to firearms and movies and whatnot, but my favorite one is Magnum Force. Why is it Magnum Force? Because Magnum Force, I believe by then they knew the Model 29 was just as much of a star as Clint Eastwood himself, okay, as the character Dirty Harry. So that one really emphasized and also showed that Magnum a lot, and I believe it's one of the only ones that actually shows him reloading the thing. In a couple occasions. One, of course, at the infamous gun range sequence, and if you haven't seen my video on that, I guess if you remember that sequence when I believe it's Davis, the character, goes in and he's getting ready to shoot that target that goes and turns and they shoot it. He's got his Python, 4-inch barrel Python, loads up the speed loader. They do wonderful camera angles on it, and then he just shoots it. I actually did a little play on that myself, and the video is called Magnum Force, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. I explain a little bit in the beginning of that video of why I liked it and everything like that. You can skip ahead through that if you want, just to see the shooting in the end of it. But it's just that whole scene is amazing. You actually see Dirty Harry running through that combat chute, bang, 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 and actually reloading and throwing his speed loader. It's always kind of neat to see. So, what do I have here on the table so I can stop yakking? Yes, I have the classic, 3 of the classic blued 29s, and of course this one, the stainless one, is what? Come on, folks. Do we know Smith & Wesson's? 629. The 6 prefix stands for it being stainless. Now, if it was nickel, it would still be a 29. But because it's stainless, they put a 6 in front of it, so it's a 629. This is the Talo 2-inch or 3-inch barrel one. I believe it's a 3, counting the forcing cone. But the actual barrel itself, there's only about 2 inches of barrel coming from the frame. But if you go all the way back to the forcing cone, that's where they get the 3. This is a great gun. I just had to have it, and believe it or not, a lot of these are still, this one is still movie related. If you guys remember that movie, go back in the catalog of videos, you'll see why I bought the snubby stainless steel 29. But no, we got a couple of 6s out here. 6, 6.5. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, Smith & Wesson is changing a lot of things around during the times. Such as what the dash numbers mean and all those things when it comes to 29s, dash numbers, and of course, it being a Magnum, I'm sure you also heard the term pinned and recessed. What does all that stuff stand around for? Like this model, this is a 6.5 inch Model 29 vintage 70s pinned barrel recessed cylinders. What does all that mean? This was the last run, the Dash 2, the 29-2 would have been the last run of a pin barrel and recessed cylinders, meaning they countersunk the cylinders. When you put a round in there, it actually sits flush. The cylinder is slightly longer because of that, and when you see it up against the frame, you can see it butts up to the frame really close versus some of these other ones, like these are Dash 2s, or Dash 3s rather, I'm sorry. There's actually a space, there's more of a space between the frame and the cylinder, that headspace I guess you would say. But these ones here are pretty flush. In fact, you go back and watch Magnum Force, that first opening sequence, you can really see it, and you always see it. Once you get an eye for it, you will always notice it, that pin through that barrel. That's how you know if you really can't tell if that cylinder is flush up against there or not. Of course, you'll visually be able to see brass on these because the rim of the cartridge actually sits up over the cylinder. But these ones, they're countersunk into it. Smith & Wesson quit doing that. They just kind of started to save money and process and time in making these things, so they kind of eliminated that, and out came the Dash 3s, and at some point they went from the 6.5 to the 6. Why they shaved that ½ inch, I don't know. It's a kind of an interesting little thing. But Dirty Harry indeed does a 6.5 inch barrel. It's odd when you watch the series. You almost think sometimes, man, is that really the 6.5, or is that like an 8 3/8 inch barrel? Hence, getting an 8 3/8 right here. I had to make sure I covered all the bases, right? When you collect these things, the 8 3/8. Sometimes you wonder, is it the 8 3/8? The only time I ever noticed it, to me, that it had to been, there's no question about it, that it's the 8 3/8. If you look at the old cover, the old poster for the Deadpool, the final Dirty Harry movie, there's like a picture of his face and the gun right next to him. And you look, and that gun is that barrel and everything. That is the 8 3/8 inch barrel. There's no question about it. You can always tell between the where the shroud goes over the ejector and then how much extra left barrel there is. You can always tell that. But yes, in the collectible world, the Dash 2 is definitely a really sought after one. Of course, there's the the old 5 screws and pre-model 29s. Yes, that was right. When it first came out, it wasn't actually called a 29. So 44 Magnum power. Of course, I don't really shoot 44 Magnum. People go, why don't you shoot Magnums? You have a Magnum, shoot the Magnum. Because these are, for me, I love collecting these things. You guys know I'm a revolveraholic. I love revolvers. They're such a cool instrument. The way they look, the way they work is just awesome. You got a whole cylinder full of brass and rounds and ejecting those things and all that romance and cool stuff. But a steady, harsh diet of Magnums, 44 Magnum, 357 Magnum, 41 Magnum, etc. It will take its toll on that revolver eventually. Okay. Now, I intend to keep my guns, these ones especially, and of course a lot of my revolvers, I intend to keep them for a good long time and enjoy shooting them from time to time. So, and then as a hand loader, I enjoy messing and tinkering around with 44 Special. I usually load them on power factor of 45 ACP. And sometimes if I want to and play around with different powders and see how they go, sometimes I charge it up a little bit more. Like I had some stuff that I was loading with Accurate No. 2 powder and launching those bullets, and it was a pretty handful stout, running them even through the 629 with that short barrel. Of course, these here right here, I've been using that polymer coated Badman bullets. Really good stuff. Badman bullets, what I really like best about them too is the price and what you're getting. The quality of the product is what you're getting is absolutely top notch. Free shipping on all thousand pieces or more, and you really can't beat it when you're getting like 240 grain semi-wide cutter 44 bullets for, I think it's like just over $100, and it's free shipping, and it's on your doorstep in 3 to 4 days. So anyway, if you're a hand loader, and of course you get 9mm, 40, 45, all that good stuff, check them out. Badmanbullets.com. You're dealing with Pat and Pat only. That's the guy's name. Really great business. I actually need to place an order with him soon. So, okay. But yes, the 29s, if you're going to be collecting the 29 and everything like that, a big one is the original grips. Make sure that thing has its original grips, because that is a deal buster. I tell you, because there's a lot of people that bought these things back in the day, chucked out the wood grips and put something else on it. Sorry about the siren, but we're that was a big thing. And you know, some of those old ones were known as some of the Coke bottle grips, where they swelled out in the palm. They kind of look like the profile of an old Coke bottle. Boy, those are some bucks now. I bet you some of those people that remember that and threw them out, I bet you regret that. So yes, original grips condition is always good. Like this one here is a collector's piece for me. You know, it's got very little turn ring on it, and basically that's from the lockup lead-in to the lockup lead-in right here on the cylinder, and that's inherent on a revolver, because as it rotates, the stop hand on the bottom of the frame is coming up to index it and lock it in place. Well, that drags against the cylinder, so with blued guns, it's definitely noticeable on a either it's been used a lot or played with a lot, possibly. So it's another good way to, you know, not just with the Model 29s, but blued vintage revolvers in general, or revolvers that are blued, to also see just how much possibly that gun has been handled and played with. And now it doesn't necessarily mean it's been shot a lot, because somebody could have sat there and played with it a lot, but a heavy turn ring generally means somebody definitely was handling that gun quite a bit. Of course, the lockup and timing, you know, making sure it's unloaded, pulling it back, locking it in place, and then letting the hammer down, holding the trigger back, and checking that cylinder for side-to-side shake. And of course, there's forward-to-end shake as well. So these are some of the things that can happen over time if the revolver's been shot out or definitely worn out. So, and then of course, what is bad timing on a revolver? What could that mean? That could mean that the cylinder doesn't index properly before that round goes off, and you're splitting rounds between the forcing cone and the cylinder. That's not good stuff. So anyway, enough of that history on that, but yes, a whole box and whole table full of Model 29s. I'm just, you know, definitely one of the fanatics with Dirty Harry. A lot of people ask me, what's your favorite double action revolver? My favorite double action revolver has got to be, without a doubt, the Model 29. That's pretty much it. Even though that Model 10, that pre-Model 10 snubby, it always stays a special spot in my mind, or for me, I guess in my heart, for that movie Witness and everything. But yes, I'm that guy that there was a lot of movies that influenced me. Some people get that, some people don't. If you don't, oh well, maybe, you know, you just don't get it. But there's probably things that you do that other people don't get. But for me, a lot of it is those old movies that I grew up watching, because I was showing some really good stuff when I was younger. And this is some of the stuff that I really enjoyed, like Dirty Harry and the original James Bond movies and such. So, yeah. I'm Batjac J.W. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you again. And don't worry, you'll be seeing some of these things up close very soon, such as the Model 29-2, which you have not seen. This is the first time you're seeing it on the channel. That is, unless you're watching my vlog channel. Then you've already seen a glimpse of it. But check out my other videos on the subject, and a lot of shooting videos and a lot of stuff like that. So including that shooting that Badman bullet at what was it, 80 yards at bowling pin. Can you believe it? So like, share, and subscribe, as I said, and I'll see you guys later.